very excited to be sitting with two people that I've got to know now almost a little over a year, and obviously it's a little bit of a blur these past 12 to 18 months with the lockdown and not seeing people, but I think it's safe to say a little over a year. A couple that started to reach out to me after listening and or watching the content either on YouTube or the podcast platforms, and just asking a lot of questions. And I remember answering some of the questions just through like the socials, the DMs and the Facebooks of the world. I was like, wow, like they're just getting started, but the questions they're asking is almost it's almost like they already have built out a portfolio. And then I came to realize quickly after sitting down and doing kind of an initial consultation that, oh, they're just getting started. But like I could tell, I'm not trying to say I'm Nostradamus. I'm not trying to say I can read people's minds or anything of that sort, but there's this feeling, being in sales and service for 26 years and real estate now for 16 years, you get to know people. You get this, I don't know, call it Spider-Man's sixth sense or something like that, where you just feel like these people they're gonna take action. They're not what I sometimes call like seminar junkies, like meaning going to every single seminar in the world, but then not taking action. Not that there's anything wrong with learning and educating and going to workshops. I mean, I picked up a lot of my skills from an investing perspective and an entrepreneurial perspective from those seminars. But look, I mean, all that knowledge, the books and reading and all that, in my opinion, is not power, right? Like knowledge is not power. The actual use of that knowledge is power. Big reason there's a sign above my head here that says ready, fire, aim. And these two people actually have taken a lot of action in a very short period of time. Hence why I wanted to have them on. It's Wilson and Jessica. How you two doing today?
Great. How's it going?
It's good. No complaints on my end, guys. I'm living the dream. Very, very blessed to know people like you. And this is not I'm not trying to over dramatize anything. It really is so refreshing to see someone like yourself, like to really be part of your journey, to watch the journey, right? Where you started to expand your portfolio, all the stuff that we kind of want to get into today, because I know there's one person who's watching or listening to this that is going to get inspired. I know that because I've been doing this now for coming up to 3 years, hosting podcasts like this, where I get enough feedback like, oh, that episode when you were speaking to Wilson and Jessica, like that resonated with me so much. So like I've had some crazy big guys and gals that own huge companies. I got to tell you, the most watched and most listened to and most engaged episodes are ones with someone like yourself where you're just real. Like, you know what I mean? Does that make sense, guys? Like, I mean, you listen to a lot of content. Is that who you guys resonate with more? Like just someone that is just going through the journey themselves?
Yeah. I mean, we started back when the pandemic started. When we were at work, we actually worked at school boards, just going to an empty building with no kids, and you're supposed to just do work. So you start listening to music and stuff. And I remember that's when I actually started, for some reason, it took in to start utilizing audiobooks. After listening to before that, I started researching for Canadian real estate podcasts. And that's when it came into play. And I remember the first couple of episodes that I listened to, I'm like, this makes a lot of sense. Now, how do I convince my wife to come into this, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Jessica, did it take a lot of convincing, or how did that go? Like, how did that all happen? Like, did he just come home one day and was like, okay, hon, you need to hear this. I need to show, like, how did that all kind of come about? That convincing part?
He just kind of like talked to me about it, and I was so on the fence about it because I was never in a million years raised like to do any of this. It was, you buy your house, you pay your mortgage down, done. It's very traditional. I'm Italian Portuguese, so it's very traditional. This is what you do. No debt.
And now here I come and I say, okay, what if we refinance our home? We put our home on the line to go buy this other property to rent out and, give it to tenants, and we'll see what happens.
So I gotta ask Jessica, was that the time you were thinking, like, I gotta kick this guy out? Like he's on some type of drugs? Like, what is he saying? Like, that must have been really out there for you.
Yeah, totally. I didn't know what to say. Like, I mean, I was never, like I said, I was never encouraged to do this. And then to hear, oh my God, a lien on the house. Oh my God, like, how are we going to pay this? What if we don't? Seriously, like, the bank's coming after us. So you know what? I've known him for 10 years. And I said, okay, you know what? I think I can trust him a little bit. If anything bad happens, it's on him. So you'll have to figure it out.
So what I did was, after seeing the numbers, listening to other podcasts and their pro formats and everything, I said, okay, well, mathematically speaking, we could make, I don't remember what it was, like $400 a month extra. So would we risk our house for $400 a month extra? Yeah. I knew that wasn't going to be a way to get through her. But I know that my wife loves to travel around the world. So I'm like, okay, $400 a month, and here's about $5,000 give or take. That's an extra vacation. So I'm like, hey, honey, what if we do this and we take that money and we travel around the world?
Was that your why at that time? And is that still kind of your why? Like, is it to enjoy travel? Because I think that's a very strong why.
Yes, Jazz, like to enjoy travel and just being able to, we want a new car. Let's buy a new car every 2 years just because, yeah, like you said, the why. Or, I don't know, buying a cottage just because we can't. As before, we couldn't. Just working, like a 9 to 5 won't do it. So we're thinking, okay, so how do we get there? Yeah.
Now, Wilson, I want to take it back a little bit. You said the rich dad, poor dad. I mean, I think that's probably I don't know, if it's not the most classic investing / like entrepreneurial book out there. It's definitely in the top 3. How did that get into your hands? Was it somebody who told you about it? Did you just start researching like online, like how to start investing? Like, how did that come into your world?
So I was working for about a couple of weeks. Again, like I said, in an empty building just by myself. I was bored out of my mind. You can listen to music, but you can only do so much. Then I remember thinking, somebody told me throughout my life, when there's a crisis, there is both people who suffer and people who make money. Okay, well, we're going through a crisis. This must be a reason. There must be a way to benefit from this. And for some reason, I guess the list of audiobooks on my iPhone, I saw Rich Dad Poor Dad. And I remember, when I was probably in grade 4 or 5, people were talking back home about the book. Everybody's like, you must read it, you must read it. I'm a kid. It doesn't have pictures. I don't care for it. I'm like, hey, I got nothing else to do here at work, so might as well listen to this thing. I think within the next 10 minutes, I was already like hooked into, wait, there is something resonant, something makes sense here.
Do you remember what that was?
You know what? The leverage, between the inflation part where, savers are losers, and I felt that way, and seeing the equity that we had in our house, that awesome, we had like $300,000 in equity.
Yeah.
That's cool, but I can't touch it unless I sell. And if I sell, where am I going to live?
Yeah.
And that was one way. And then I think he mentions in the book about the refinancing aspect, not the hers. Buy gold or flips. Okay, well, real estate, if I can refinance my equity, I could use my money from the bank at super low interest. Like it just clicked, it just makes sense.
Well, look, I mean, when Jessica was saying like she grew up in a household where she was taught to obviously save as much as you possibly can, as quickly as you can. And I think the number one thing you probably heard, Jessica, I definitely did in my household, which was pay off your mortgage as fast as possible, because that's the biggest debt that you're going to carry, right? And then you throw on, you read a book like Rich Dad Poor Dad, you listen to a podcast like this, and there's this crazy Indian guy who's waving his hands saying, you should really consider refinancing your house and pulling out your equity. I mean, it's like, whoa. I think most people, personally, I think it goes in through 1 year and comes out the other. And it's just like, this is way over my head. But for some, like yourselves, at least you stopped and said, hang on, let's find out a little bit more about this, how it actually works. Now, so you find out that you have $300,000 worth of equity in your home. Okay, you decide that, okay, we're not going to sell, because then where are we going to go? We are going to do this refinance. What's the next kind of step that you took, if you can go back now? Which I think this journey, correct me if I'm wrong, it started like right at pandemic time, so that's probably like March, April 2020.
Correct. Yeah. So I started listening to the podcast back in March. We started talking with my wife about actually taking it seriously about April, and like doing more research, learning more, reaching out to people. And I think we contacted you by probably, I would say it was June. Around, because it was the Bright Waters project. And I was like, okay, well, this limited land, like it makes complete sense to invest in there.
Now, was that your, so I know, I remember when you called me about that project, we didn't move forward with that project, but were you guys possibly like thinking about a different type of strategy? Like what was kind of going through your minds at that time? Like, because there's a lot of different types of strategies, right? You can buy a home and flip it. You can buy a home, do the repairs to it, the whole BRRRR strategy. You can look at a new build home or condo. You can do other passive investments like land development or mortgage investments, short-term mortgages. What was going on in your head? Did you jump straight to new builds? Because I actually totally forget, because I'm not sure where your headspace was at the start. Like what was some of the strategies you were considering?
We were thinking to start off small, I guess you could say. So we think, okay, we bought a pre-construction in Milton, and for example, we paid $410,000. It went up to $800,000. So we're like, okay, pre-construction is fantastic.
And what was the time period? Sorry to cut you off, Jessica. What was that? So from when you bought it for $410,000, went up to $800,000, and that's the principal residence that you live in now, right?
Yeah. It was about 4 years.
Okay, continue. Sorry.
No problem. So it was just like, okay, we just kind of put the puzzle pieces together and said pre-construction, we did really well. It was most affordable for us. So anyone who wants a starter, I would start with that. You have everything brand new. You're the first user. So let's try something where you will gain that value. It will go up like that. So we're like, yeah, you know what? It makes sense. And we both love the project that you offered us, and I think
it was mostly the starting small. Like we had all this money. We could have jumped into a BRRRR right away, spent $100,000 down payment, was another $100,000 renovations, $200,000 on something that we've never done.
I think it was just lack of experience, to be honest.
And then I think we were researching between brand new and doing the BRRRRs and doing the flips.
Yeah.
And when you brought up the options of brand new pre-construction, well, it doesn't give you a lot of cash to apply. You only need like 5% per year. You can assign it before you close on it. And it was like small investment or smaller investment compared to the others. And we're like, you know what? Let's just get our feet wet. Let's just see how it goes. And if we like it, we start another chunk of money that we can keep deploying.
Go ahead, Jessica. Go ahead.
Sorry, we felt super comfortable doing that, and we just said, like Wilson was saying, get our feet wet, start small, and see how that goes, and then increase the leverage. I would say, right, the leverage. So
yeah. Look, I think for anybody who's starting out, I always speak about moving up the investment property ladder. Like I've been personally investing now for the last 9 years, approximately, almost 10 years, right? I didn't get started in income properties right away when I got into the business. It took me a little bit of time. But I've always loved multiplexes, right? Because you have the scales of economy. You get one property, you have one roof, you have one furnace, you have one building, but you get to rent it out to 5, 6, 7 14 tenants. But at the start, there's a lot involved with investing into a multiplex, right? So for your first one, start off nice and slow, make it very passive, right? Which new builds, as you mentioned, actually offer you that. You have the down payment of 20% that here in Ontario you need to put down as an investor, and that's done over 3.5 years. You also, like you mentioned, Wilson, when it comes to the assignment where you can flip it before it sells, like, look, life can happen. Even the one that you bought, I mean, don't quote me on this, but I think it's closing sometime. It's supposed to be built for sometime around 2024, right? And so life, I mean, anything can happen. You guys can change your mind on it. You might have another opportunity that comes up. You might want to cash out, so to speak, before it gets built. I'm going to stop you from doing that as much as possible because I want you to close on it and then refinance it again when it gets built. But I think there's those steps, right? And so between a new build and a multiplex, I mean, you could just buy a duplex. You don't have to go to 7 units or stuff and jump right away to that.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And it's also a part of a strategy because we kept hearing in the different podcasts, different investors being interviewed, where they say, oh, I hit the wall. I didn't have more money. We saw this as an opportunity to, okay, let's put 20% of the brand new build, which wasn't much, and let that grow so that when we hit that wall, we should be closing on that pre-construction, on that brand new building, and then we would have equity built in. Worst case scenario, there is not enough equity. Some reason, okay, rent it out, and it's another extra property that we have. We can either, like you said, we can sign it, move in, rent it, sell it.
There's so many
options.
Exactly. I mean, and look, I mean, what myself and my partner do a lot of is, in fact, I just did it. I mean, 3 weeks ago from this recording, I bought a property 3 years ago. I closed 3.5 years ago, sorry to be exact, and I just closed on it 3 weeks ago, and I'm already in the process of doing a refinance for it. Now, mine went up from when I bought it to when I closed on it. It went up by about a little over $210,000, and now I'm going to pull out that equity. Not all properties might do that to that extent, but I mean, at the end of the day, your property that you bought sometime, I would say mid-August, by the time you probably finished it, was probably end of August 2020, to now, almost a year from then, a year away. I mean, that's gone up by $45,000, $50,000 already because they're coming out with the second phase of that building. So that second phase of that building is coming out a week from now or 10 days from now. And we're going to be able to kind of compare apples to apples to see, okay, hey, what is price per square foot? Because when you're looking at new builds, anybody who's watching or listening right now, the comparison that you want to do to come up with value is look always at price per square foot, because that will always tell us the best story and it's the easiest to compare for values. Now, you did the new build, but you didn't stop there. I want to talk about the next property and how that all came about. So what did you guys do next? And talk to me a little bit about the fear of expanding your portfolio, as well as and maybe it didn't become easier. And I definitely want to hear both your takes on it, which is that did it become easier because it was the second time around now?
I think mentally became easier. Seeing that you deployed the money and the world didn't collapse. It was like, okay, well, now we have that secure, that's slowly growing, that's put in the back burner. Okay, nothing bad happened. What do we do with the rest of it?
Yeah, so we were looking, and we actually ended up in London, Ontario. We bought a completely disgusting home inside, which, by the way, those are the best. Just whoever's watching, those are the best. Because
now, Jessica, hang on one sec. When you saw this house, and Wilson, you as well, were you excited about it? The fact that it was disgusting, because did you see the equity? Because I agree with you, Jessica. Those are the best. Is that what you saw? Walk me through that.
Yes, especially from an investor's mindset, you have light bulbs coming on, above your head, thinking, what could I do here? how could I structure this home? How could I, put tons of love in here? So we paid a good price. We ended up paying $349 in London, and we literally gutted it. Long story short, we gutted it. We put luxury touches inside of it. What else?
Was it a duplex, the upstairs and did you top floor and basement?
With this one, what we noticed the potential was that the house was, you have the original built home, and then they did 2 expansions to the rear of the house. So it was longer than it was taller. So what we did was we split the original home from the expansions.
Yeah.
That way would allow us to give us 2 units above ground, which people prefer to live up above ground than basement. So we saw all of that potential there. And that's where we decided to buy.
Okay, and Jess, you mentioned the price. What was the price again? $370?
No, we paid $349.
Sorry. Okay, so $350. Call it. Okay, $350. You made it into 2 units. And is that done now? By the way, guys, is it all complete? You did all the rentals and everything. Where are we at right now with that?
So we completed renovations. The city gave us the stamp last month.
Yeah.
Okay.
After having so many delays, COVID, the city of London is not really very proactive. They're super slow. But we finally got it. We're just finishing some touches on the outside, like the deck, a little bit of a pathway.
So just more of the curb appeal than anything else.
Right.
Okay. And was it you both personally doing the renovations? Did you bring someone in? I want to know a little bit more about it.
Sorry. So we hired a GC. We hired a contractor and his team to do the work. They did a great job. It was a lot of work. We literally ripped it to shreds. We had dog feces in the basement. We had cat pee on the floor. We were cringing walking in that house. So we said, we brought him in and said, okay, there has to be a way to fix this. What do you guys think? Is this possible? And they said, you know what? It's going to take a lot. And we said, we're willing to sacrifice it. We're willing to, if we have to eat craft dinner, we will do it. Because you know what? This is long term for us. So we're willing to just, take it and let's do it. If it's going to take 6 to 7 months, a year, let's do it, because we just saw all this potential. Prime area.
Yeah, I think and that's the beauty of this podcast, seeing how people have gone through that rabbit hole of doing the renovations themselves. And at the end of the refinance, it takes a year and a half. And they break it down and they're making $20 now. Right? Well,
yes.
When you give it to somebody else who's a professional, knows it, yes, you gotta pay them, but they know what they're doing. Time, you cannot buy time back. And you refinance faster and you move on to the next property. Now, as an investor, you get paid more than as a renovator. Not that there is anything wrong with renovation, but just learn your path, learn your role and surround yourself with a great team. Right?
Yeah.
So that's where we decided, okay, you know what? We're going to give it to GCs. We did put some work in the backyard. Yeah, we cleaned that up ourselves. So we did put a little sweat equity.
You put a little sweat equity. I like how you added that. Yeah. Now, if you kind of remember, and you don't need to be exact, but as much as you remember, bought it for $350. You put down 20%, I guess, to acquire it. Yep. So we put down about $70,000 closing costs. I'm going to say off the top of my head, it was probably an extra $15,000, probably less than that, but called it about $15,000. So you're into this property right now for $85,000. Haven't done the repairs. What was kind of the numbers for the renovations?
So including the outside, everything was $100,000.
Okay, so including all of it, $100,000. So now you're into it for $450,000. Actual with value, but the money that you've put down is about $180,000. Am I right there? Am I still working with her? And was that right? And now, was that money from the refinance from your principal residence?
Yes.
Correct.
So okay, so I hope everyone's catching on to this. They bought their first condo, a new build, which they're going to be putting installments. They put that down from the bank's money, which was from a home equity line of credit refinance from their principal property. Now with the other $180,000, it was not the money that they saved and put under their mattress and under the couch. It was all done through a refinance. Your interest rate, I'm going to venture to guess on that home equity line of credit, 2.5%, 3%.
2.45. Yeah.
2.45, even less than I was thinking. And now we're into it for 180,000. But the actual property that you bought in London, you're into it for about 450,000. What do we think the value might be as of today, a year later?
So we just refinanced.
Yeah.
We just heard back from the bank.
And
the price.
You can. I can't figure it
Yeah.
exactly right
So
now.
we refinanced with the bank. We had no idea where it was going to land just because the market is so crazy, and we know that appraisers have been told by the banks to be more conservative on their numbers. So they appraised the duplex at 550.
550. So another $100,000 on top of it. Didn't do the work yourself, obviously, other than the curb appeal and the landscaping. I'm not going to take that away from both of you. But 99% of it was all done through a GC. How did you come about finding the general contractor as well? Because I know a lot of people who are listening is like, you can't trust general contractors. Look, you can't trust general contractors. You can't trust some real estate agents. You can't trust some lawyers. Like every industry is like that. But there's also experts in those industries as well. Just ask a lot of friends and family for recommendations, somebody that's done it in the past. How did you guys find your GC? Like building out that team is important. And you mentioned it, Wilson. I speak about it all the time, your real estate all-star team. When you're doing renovations to a house, I obviously the number one person is that general contractor. How did you guys come about finding your person?
We asked a realtor, do you know anybody? He was an investor-focused realtor. So he found us a contact. Awesome. Hold on. We found 3 more contacts, and we scheduled a walkthrough before we even took possession of the house. This is
okay.
Before we closed. We just wanted that first day we closed, we're demolishing. So we had the first person come in, look at the house, give us a rough quote. He would start bringing up lingo that we had no idea. But then when the second person showed up, we're like, okay, we need this, and that. Like, as if we knew. And then this person would be like, okay, like, you know what you're talking about. Yeah, but you also need this, you also need that.
We were nervous. I mean, this is our first, big project. So we were thinking, like Wilson was saying, put a little bit at a time. Don't give all your life savings at once, And worst case scenario, if you lose $5,000-$6,000, I know it sucks. But then you get that feeling of, okay, you know what? Let me look for somebody else. But leverage, you have to leverage in order to get something. You can't always be scared of everything,
I know I asked Wilson this question. I kind of want to go back to you just for a sec. Like the second time that you were doing the refinance, a lot more comfortable, 10% more comfortable. Where was your comfort level doing it the second time?
I was super nervous. I trust my husband, but super nervous. I was thinking, oh my God, we're going to lose so much money. Nobody's going to rent this area, even though it's a great area. It's just, oh my God, what if they open the attic and that's going to cost us I don't know, $30,000. We don't have that money. But you know what? There's a will, there's a way. Focus
on solutions. If you focus on, I can't do it, I can't afford it, I don't know how to do it, done. That's an easy excuse to just shut off your brain and stop it.
Well, first and foremost, I also want to congratulate you again because I never did through all the success. I gotta ask though, what's next now? I mean, now I'm sure that you're addicted. I'm sure both of you are addicted. I think real estate investing is the best drug known to man and woman. I think it's by far the one that it's okay to be addicted to. But what's next now? What are you guys thinking is next for the portfolio?
So we were looking in Ontario and getting discouraged. You fall, you got to get it back up. You fall, you get back up. You search on MLS and you go out and you see homes and you put offers. And we were getting rejected. And we were putting a financing condition just to be safe. I mean, like I said, leverage a little bit at a time. We were putting that condition just so, we sleep at night. We feel better about that. But unfortunately, we were getting rejected. We were getting, I'm not gonna lie here. We were upset. We were sad. It was a little bit of an emotional roller coaster. But we're like, there's got to be something. We have to go to Timbuktu or Sudbury. We're gonna look there. But and it took a while. And we diverted. So we're like, let's look at other provinces. Why not? Right? So we were thinking of out east. But with the COVID situation, you have to quarantine when you get there. You have to quarantine when you get back. Yeah, exactly. Thank you. And we're like, that doesn't work. Let's, go more of the west side. So we were thinking Alberta. So we're like, what the hell? Let's just take a flight there. And, let's just go there and see what they have. We went there and drove around. The houses look totally different. I mean, the streets don't have names. It's like numbers. So I'm like, where are we? So long story short, it was just like, let's see how much these houses cost. So we looked online for a duplex. I would say we started for a duplex. It was like $450,000. So you have 2 years. You have 2 houses side by side. So we're like, okay, you know what? That's okay, right? We were thinking, let's try. We have the money, thankfully. Let's try a full time. We looked online. We're like, they're about $500,000 to $650,000. We're like, I think we can do that.
It's cheaper.
Per unit is cheaper. So we're like, okay, make your money what's more possible, right? So, we got in contact with a great realtor, and we went and we were just like, this doesn't compare to Ontario. There's people that for $600,000 or $650,000. So now we're sticking to the Alberta market. We're learning more and more every day. We're not experts yet, but we're doing our best and getting in.
So the thing with Ontario was what encouraged us was the tax. You have to have your fundamentals straight. And I'm not saying this is hard country. These are key fundamentals. I mean, for us, it's about $20 per unit.
Yeah.
We were not getting it at the prices that we were offering. We were being offered by 80, 100,000 over what we were offered, but there was no competition. Then we started going to smaller towns that it didn't make sense in case the economy turns around. The economy goes up, economy goes down. So we said we have to invest in cities. That's why we invested in London.
Yeah.
When we went to Alberta, we have small towns invest in Edmonton or Calgary. The cash flow opportunity there, area, this is it. I mean, yeah, it's a profit, but you're cash flowing about 13, 14, 15. And again, you're in a major city. So, big city. Okay.
Unheard of.
Location. We spoke about it, location, development coming out. Okay, right, money. So we just saw it and we said, you know what, there is an opportunity here. We bought the fourplex.
Yeah.
We came back, flew over there again for another fourplex. We venture here, which was the first one. And we showed them the numbers and they decided to invest with us as well.
So now you're actually doing this with joint venture partners as well.
Correct.
Yes.
And let's talk about that for a couple of minutes, because I think that's very important, because at one point we were talking about possibly hitting the wall, where a lender just makes it a little tougher, right? I mean, especially here in Canada, once you get to about 5 properties, it definitely gets tough, where not all lenders will give you financing. And then the other option that you have, in my opinion anyways, it's to start to do joint ventures, where you bring on a partner like Nikki and say, Nikki, I got the property now. I also have a down payment, but I just can't get the financing. And I'll bring you into the deal at 25, 30, 40, 50%, whatever you end up negotiating. And for everybody who's listening, it's all negotiable. all of it. People ask me all the time,
Yeah,
what's the percentage that you're going to give a partner? I don't know. It depends on what value they're bringing to the table, right? Like it all comes down to that, right? What are you looking for now when it comes to joint venture partners? And if you're listening and you might fit what Wilson and Jess are talking about, reach out to them, because this is why we put these types of this type of content together, because I want you guys to all connect with each other, build a community, figure it all out. I would love for all you to do deals in Timbuktu, Saskatchewan, for all I care. It doesn't need to be with us. I just want to build that community. What are you guys kind of looking for when it comes to a joint venture partner now?
We're looking for somebody who wants to invest, who wants to get big returns, but they don't want to deal with the process. I mean, investing out of province, it's a lot of, there's a huge gap for problems just because of the distance. People there know what they do from Ontario. You're not going to get around the phone. They could be bringing in people, operating without you even knowing. So we want to have investors where they have the money, they want to get great returns, and they're okay, here's the money, you go work for it, and you might get it back. That's the type of investors we're looking for. We are the ones who want to find the deal. We are the ones who are going to be finding the tenants, upgrading, adding value to each unit, and giving returns back. I believe our first objective is get the money back from the investor, and we split the profits.
The profits, and okay. Right. Well, again, I mean, it's so cool to see, guys. I wish, I'm not even sure. Maybe my team did keep the recording from the first Zoom call that we did when we first met back like 18 months ago or whatever it was, to now see like you not only took so much action, but now you're flirting around with joint ventures. You're flying to another province to look at deals. Like, this is so cool. It's I feel so grateful to have known you guys, to be part of this journey. It's why we do what we do, to even have like a 0.0001% part of your journey. It's so nice. I want both of you to leave our viewers and listeners with a tip each, like a tip or a strategy. And it can come from a mindset perspective. It can come from a very micro tactical tip when it comes to investing. The mic's yours. Jess, I'll start with you. What's that one tip or strategy?
What I would recommend in my strategy is to, just believe in yourself, because like I said, from my story, I'm just talking for myself. I'm not going to talk for Wilson. This was always frowned upon, and I just thought of look at the big pictures. We work government jobs, and for me to say, I'm gonna stay in my government job and be comfortable. No, you gotta come out of that comfort zone, and trust me, it's very rewarding. And don't feel shy. Be able to ask people questions. Like, we're here to help each other. We started just over a year ago. Don't be scared. You can do it. Believe in yourself. You're not alone in this, and we can all help each other. Like, really, no one's going to judge each other. There's no wrong answer, and it's very rewarding. I'm coming from someone with anxiety, so I'm scared of everything. So to do this I'm proud of myself, and I know that by sending this word out, you can kind of take a stab at it, because it's really rewarding, and it's a life changer, really.
Well, I love what you said, Jess, about reaching out to people. I mentioned this so much, that being part of real estate investing groups, as well as like business groups, entrepreneurial networking groups, digital, virtual, as well as live ones, you can really start to tell the difference between the real estate ones and how much more superior they are. Like the actual events, but but more importantly, the people in these networking events, because the biggest difference I've found, and I've been part of these groups now for coming up to a decade, is how much more these real estate investors want to share, right? Like you were saying that like, I mean, no one's going to judge you. And that's exactly like that. You couldn't have said it any better, because we all remember trying to get our first property. And we know how tough it was, or walking into a hotel conference room and seeing 50, 60, 500 people there, and some who were introverts, right? And like, oh my God, like I don't want to talk to Wilson, like and Jess, they have so many properties now. And I heard this podcast and they're flying to Alberta. And it's like, no, I can't tell you how much Wilson and Jess want to share, not only the successes, but the failures as well, because there's just this weird thing around not wanting others to hit their head against the wall like you and I did, right? And we just know that feeling. So great point on that. Fantastic tip. Wilson, my man, what would you want to leave the viewers and listeners with today, buddy?
I would say find out your why. Cars, money, houses, that's my opinion. Personally, that's not a strong why. Anybody can work double shifts and get a nice Mercedes Benz. But why is not everybody doing that? It's not worth it. It's not an incentive strong enough to do it. So find your why do you want to do it. It goes beyond money. I mean, ask yourself why 7 times. Why do you want to do what I want to? How do you road uphill? What do you want? And why do you want that? And why do you want that? That's the motivation that every time you're gonna come to the wall, that's what's gonna fuel you to go through that wall, find that strategy, to put energy into it. You've been frustrated. You've been frustrated. And you just want to say, what are we doing? But then you start remembering, well, this is why. This is why. Just get up and say, let's go at it. It re-energizes. Find your why. Find your why. And find your whys of why. There's a book called 7 Layers of Why, I believe it is. Great read. It really shows you why do we want things, and it just pushes you through any barrier you encounter.
Well, look, and to think that you're not going to hit obstacles is being completely naive, because especially in the world of investing, you're going to hit a lot of obstacles. You're going to hit times when you just, man, you don't want to go and see another property. To your point earlier, Jess, like the amount of times you guys lost in multiple offers. Wow, like you really, like it's debilitating. Like you just, like, you put in offers and you're losing. You think you're going to win. It's that why that is going to make you get up the next morning and knock on doors or call people or go to a networking event at 7:30 in the evening on the other side of town when you just had a crazy day at work and you don't want to deal with the traffic on the 401 here in Toronto, but it's the why that makes you get up and go. And then when you get there, you meet someone that becomes your joint venture partner. I've heard that story hundreds of times. And it all starts, I love what you said, Wilson, about go deep. Like, why do you want the Ferrari? Well, you're going to come up with a couple of reasons, and don't just stay on the surface of why, because the weaker the why, the weaker the reasons for you to continue to get up and do it again. Wilson, Jess, as I mentioned earlier, it's been a complete honor to get to know you guys over this past year and a bit. I want to thank you for sharing. I mean, both of you definitely spoke about your vulnerabilities, and for that, I just want to say thank you, because I know how much my viewers and listeners are going to resonate with this, and I can tell you, a month from now, 6 months from now, I'm going to have clients reach out and say, there was a podcast episode I heard, and you were speaking to Wilson and Jess, and she was scared, and that's what made me do it. And that is what I do all this content for. So I just wanted to say, once again, congratulations, and thank you so much for your time.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you, Jazz. Yeah, it's a great opportunity.
It's a pleasure. Thank you. It's our pleasure.